I loved this film when I first viewed it at the age of 12, and I still do. The Wachowskis wanted to combine everything they loved into one feature film, and here it is. The sequels weren't my favourites, and I didn't care for the fourth film either, although in my opinion the first Matrix still holds up as a stellar film. So much to appreciate. The visuals, the choreography, the world building, the involving imagination, the VFX ambition, its intellectual excitement, and the production creativity. Let me read about an excerpt from Noel Oakeshot's review of Matrix Resurrections, the fourth film. I will link this review in the description. It is a phenomenal piece. Here is a brief section which reflects upon 1999's original classic, The Matrix. Situated exactly where nearly a decade of pre-millennium anxiety on film burst at the seams at the frictional moment right before the future finally arrived, the Wachowskis' highly stylized aestheticization of a new dystopic vision presented two worlds. A dark post-apocalyptic world ruled by machines, fought by a human resistance on the periphery, a visually streamlined fine-tuning of a Terminator-esque future painted in purples and greys, the latest iteration of a vision incubated in the preceding 2 decades or more of Hollywood sci-fi pessimistically surveying the concurrent explosion in consumer electronics. More remarkable both to audiences in 1999 and in retrospect is the titular Matrix, a simulated reality that occupies human minds in order to keep their bodies enslaved, a hyperconformist acceleration of the suffocating banality present in modernity constructed at every scale of society, from the cumulative architecture of major cities to the quantum of individual interactions, all bathed in console green with an omnipresent textural and material plasticity lurking just beneath the surface. It was deeply new to audiences in 1999 and blitzed for popular cinema. There is a before Matrix and an after Matrix. But it was certainly not without precedent. From René Descartes' Cogito Ergo Sum to 20th century thinkers like Jean Baudrillard, Gilles Deleuze, and Guy Debord, long traditions of thought preceded the Wachowskis. The millennial anxiety/anticipation of The Matrix crested a wave that had been building in cinema since Claude Chabrol's Dr. M in 1990, coursing through popular countercultural cinema of the mid to late 90s the world over. The decade in general saw counterculture take over the mainstream, from the grunge explosion and the ascent of alternative music to American independent filmmakers as diverse as Whit Stillman, Greg Araki, and Kevin Smith. The Matrix's soundtrack fused some of the edgiest electronic and alternative rock to reach the mainstream. Marilyn Manson, Ministry, Rob Zombie, The Prodigy, Rage Against the Machine, and what could be more of a countercultural triumph than a massively popular mainstream movie 7 years after the end of history, suggesting that reality itself is an illusion. It doesn't seem particularly subversive today, understandable given all that has transpired since. We'll get there. And perhaps also in part because the border between counterculture and mainstream is now non-existent, or at least so porous as to be functionally non-existent. Cyberpunk cinema had gone from embryonic proto-works like World on a Wire that merely shared a common subject with the movement still in literary incubation, to its parallel explosions in One, a genuinely avant-garde reverberation of Japanese new wave in which underground artists like Gakuru Ishii, Katsuhiro Otomo, Shinya Tsukamoto, Shigeru Izumiya, and Koichi Ohata were able to realize profane apocalypses of cyborgs wading through death and destruction, Bosozoku gangs as warriors on the frontiers of reality. 2. A less internally synchronized but equally important American series of both innovative big-budget commercial films like Blade Runner, Terminator, and Tron that utilized the new marketability of sci-fi in the wake of Star Wars to advance a nihilistic future aesthetic, and smaller oddities films arriving at a similar place via a variety of routes such as Overdrawn at the Memory Bank, a telefilm adapting cyberpunk literature, and 3. A diverse plethora of global cinema, director Philip Jackson in Canada, films Kamikaze 1989 and Decoder in Germany, Flash Future Kung Fu in Hong Kong. These currents congealed into direct precedents, a bit too direct in some ways, most notably Ghost in the Shell. An increasingly complex progression of Hong Kong martial arts flicks had seeped through cultural boundaries, and with them a new intricate style of screen action with stupendously large ratios of action production time to screen time from luminaries like John Woo and Yuen Wu Ping, who choreographed the Matrix trilogy. The internet was still a mythic place deep in the throes of cyber-utopianism, but had permeated the collective consciousness. The Matrix culminated all of these not intellectually or creatively, but in the public imagination. It impressively marries a commercially viable big budget formula with classic existential conceptual exercises to create a versatile scaffold that has imprinted itself on how we think about the nature of reality, then adorns it with clever allegories. There you go, that's a excerpt from the brilliant piece from Noel Oakeshott about The Matrix Resurrections, and that's the piece specifically focusing on 1999's original classic, The Matrix. I consider 1999's The Matrix to be an exciting realization of John Woo heroic bloodshed fantasia, the live-action answer to Ghost in the Shell, the encapsulation of popular cyberpunk tropes, and the most forward-thinking Hollywood film from 1999, likely as not. In my opinion, The Matrix holds up. It has held up as plausibly the most influential science fiction film culturally of the 21st century, particularly this whole idea of the world as we know it being an illusion, perceptually or societally, and the taking of a certain coloured pill in order to see the truth. The Matrix has been such an accessible, popular metaphor for uncovering the true nature of the world. Plato's cave, some might claim. Is The Matrix a work of genius comparable to the works of William Gibson, Philip Dick, or whichever author you want to name? Is it as sophisticated intellectually as Mamoru Oshii or Andrei Tarkovsky? Maybe not, but who really cares? As a stylish homage to everything two film geek siblings loved about the medium, The Matrix warms my heart and has been a profound influence on my life. The way it creatively weaves all of its creators' passions together cohesively into one universe is spellbinding, and I will always be fond of it. 1999's The Matrix. Let me know your thoughts, if any. Have a fantastic day, everyone.